Good morning to everybody from the Tash and Bex Flex. Good morning. Hello. Good morning if you're watching on David McKenzie Friends, YouTube, or Truth Pills.
I've got really annoying dogs around here at the moment because I stupidly bought some snizzles, which apparently is a penis. Some schnizzles and a puffed pig snout.
Yes.
And a cod piece. No, not cod piece, a cod ring.
Cod ring, which is even, it smells disgusting. It does smell like a cod piece.
It does smell like a proper cod piece. And they're fighting over it, so I've just had to hide them. And now they're both like...
They're both around us.
Pestering us for this.
Go and lie down, Henry, please, darling.
They're pestering us, please.
Come on. Go and lie down.
These
Thank
natural
you.
treats.
Thank you. Bugger off.
Not used to Henry being so
no,
like...
Henry, come on, go and lie down and be an old man. That's what you're supposed to do. Oh,
they're not in there, it's like they're up there.
Okay, tricks are up there, we're right. Okay, so we've got a real... a lot of you said you wanted the Beatles expose, so Tash has prepared it, but I think it's going to rock a few people's worlds, isn't it, Tash?
I don't know. Potentially. I couldn't find, about 2 years ago, I found some really juicy stuff, and it's not on the internet anymore.
So they've taken it down.
Can't find it. So some of it's from memory from that, and the other stuff is just what I did manage to find. But yeah, there was loads more stuff, and it's definitely being...
So I'm laughing at Henry.
Definitely being... What they do?
I don't know.
He just looks great there, doesn't he? Look.
Hello, Henry!
It's like a painting.
Yeah.
Majestic dog.
So basically they've taken a load of stuff down from a couple of years ago.
Yes.
But you remember it.
I remember a little bit, and I have found a little bit, and so basically the Beatles was a creation, like another psychological operation, if you like,
yeah.
Which was created by the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations.
I just remembered I forgot the mic. Anyway, never mind.
Can we start again?
No, I'm sure everyone can hear us. We're very, very loud.
So the Tavistock Institute for Human Relations. So I thought, I'll have a look on, see what just the mainstream...
Vibe.
You know, what it says, what that actual thing
About
is.
the Tavistock Institute.
Yeah.
Because I used to work for social services years and years ago when I was in my 19 to 24. I worked for them, and they were always banging on about Tavistock Institute. When we did training and stuff, we used a lot of their psychological research and blah, blah, blah. So I thought, the Tavistock Institute must be a good place. But like everything,
yes.
we're discovering that things
They're
are
not.
never what they seem.
Never what they seem. So if you look it up on mainstream, it just says the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations is a British non-for-profit organisation that applies social science to contemporary issues and problems. It was initiated in 1946 when it was developed from the Tavistock Clinic and was formally established as a separate entity in 1947.
Sorry about my dog, he's got a heart condition.
And obviously Aurora's, getting his heart going.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, what was the Tavistock Institute? So I looked at the Tavistock Institute. So the Tavistock Clinic. What was the Tavistock Clinic?
Yeah.
So the Tavistock Clinic was formed in 1921, and it was an NHS institute of medical psychology and the study and treatment of mental health and interpersonal dynamics. And I think it's moved throughout London. I don't think it's always been in the same place.
Have they not got more than one?
I'm not
venue?
Sure.
Because I felt like,
probably. Yeah.
it's quite big now. So
yeah. So the headquarters in London for the actual institute. So it went from a clinic, which was an NHS clinic, which also makes you realise of the connection with the NHS with all of this whole
and the timing
operation.
that it was set up, and you think that the all of what we're experiencing now was actually set up from the World Wars.
Yes.
Around that time. So a lot of these institutes and these things that we thought, that's great, were sort of...
And this one especially, it was actually under the guise of the British War Propaganda Bureau. That's what the Tavistock Institute was.
Oh.
And it was set up to start a war between Britain and Germany, and they employed writers to put out the war propaganda. So, yeah.
I wonder if they've been putting any propaganda out with this latest...
I would imagine so.
Yeah.
It's very hard to find information on the Tavistock Foundation,
which is
just in
institute.
Itself.
Yeah.
So the headquarters in London, founded in 1946. Their prophet is Sigmund Freud, of course, and there's a statue of him outside the Tavistock
well-known.
Clinic.
He's a paedo, isn't he?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, well-known paedophile.
Yeah, and there is a statue of him outside the clinic, the original clinic, the mental health clinic. And he was basically given a mansion by Princess Bonaparte in and she was massive in the whole instrumental working of the Tavistock pioneer work, if you like, with behavioural science.
She? Princess Bonaparte.
Yeah, Princess Bonaparte.
Is she Italian or something? Is she
Sounds
British?
like her. No, I think
French.
she's Bonaparte or Bonaparte. And basically, she did pioneering work in behavioural science along the freedom lines of controlling humans. So by thinking that they had freedom, they were controlling them. And it was established as the World Centre of the Foundation of Ideology. Is kind of like how it.
Okay, so the idea behind it is to work out psyops that make the people think they're free, but actually they're being completely controlled.
Yes, exactly
Whoa,
that.
yeah.
Exactly that. So the financial backers were the Astor family.
Oh.
The US equivalent of which is the Council of Foreign Relations, and that's the equivalent of the Tavistock Institute.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan, Jacob Schiff, Paul Wahlberg, and J.D. Rockefeller.
Oh, our old friends.
So they were the financial backers, but the main funding came from the British royal family and later the Rothschilds. And then the Milner Group became heavily involved as well, and I think that's another kind of institution thing. So what I did, I looked at the... I'll show you... I'll read it out, but there's a little kind of graphy thing there. Because we spoke last...
The graphy thing. We're so technical, aren't we?
Yeah, spider graphy thing. Because I spoke last week, didn't we, about committee. I think I said 3,000, but it's committee 300.
Yeah.
So the committee 300 is at the top, which is basically
The Satanists.
the people who,
Yeah.
what do you want to call them, Illuminati or whatever. And then you have things that come down lower. So you've got like... Below them, you've then got like the British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company, which is quite interesting. And then you've obviously got the UN, all the US things, and then the Bilderberg Group, you've got the Round Table, and then a few other little things, and then you get the Tavistock Institute, and then you've got various ones coming down from them as well, and you've got Harry Kissinger and all that come off it. So it's quite an interesting little...
Does that say CIA?
The CIA, yeah, CIA, and then you've got the Club of Rome, MK Ultra, the Star Group. So the Tavistock is sort of mid on that graph.
Yeah,
from the committee of 300
kind
at the top.
Spurges out.
Yeah,
from
and then
there.
you've got all these different things. So I thought that was sort of
So
quite
they're
interesting.
All linked, all these.
Yes, absolutely. So today it operates a $6 billion year business, and it gets it's basically tax funded by the US people.
By America.
Not us. And then it's got 10 major institutions, so that kind of run it. And then it's got 400 subsidiaries, and then 3,000 study groups and think tanks below it. And
So
basically,
it's huge.
It's absolutely huge. And they originate many of the programs to increase the control of the world order over American citizens. So even though, yes, it is based in this country, it's CIA based. It's an American thing. And basically, it's mass brainwashing and shaping of public opinion. And they demoralise and deplete the population by doing this, basically, is how it kind of like works. So in 1969, John Coleman, who was a British intelligence, probably MI6, I'd imagine, he started exposing it. So he basically had access to lots of things that normal people didn't because of his job. And I think a lot of the information he got from museums as well, and bits of museums that were closed, that the public weren't allowed to go to and things like that. And there was obviously lots of information held in these sort of libraries as well, where lots of information was hidden. So he had access to all of those things. So he started to expose it in 1969.
Is it here?
Let's have a look.
I think you're on that one.
Done that one? No, this one.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right. I
Bossing you
write
about through your
stuff
notes.
all over the place.
Yeah.
So I'm going back and forth to stuff. So basically, he worked out that it's actually the Royal Institute for the National Affairs at Chatham House, and that was the actual epicentre for the British establishment. Basically, and it was basically the equivalent of the Bilderberg Group, but in the UK.
Right.
So Chatham House, we've all heard of Chatham House, haven't we?
Who owns Chatham House?
I don't know, but it's royal, I'd imagine, isn't it?
Yeah,
At some point, it would have been royal.
But we know that the royals are the head of
Everything.
Yeah, all the
Well, not the head, the fake head, because they're not really the head, are they? They're the...
Are they not?
No, it's all the families above them. The royals come quite a bit below, really.
Oh.
And all the Rothschilds, all of those are much lower. The real 13 families are like the Astors, the Russells,
the Onassis.
Yeah, the much higher up
the
ones.
Rockefellers.
Yeah. Rockefellers are lower again.
I want to do that here.
The ones that we hear about are the ones that are less.
Yeah.
Are
so
less sort of like
the real ones that are right at the top are hidden.
Yeah, we don't know. And funnily enough, you'll never see the females of those families.
Yeah.
And they're probably the lead. Well, they're probably men
They're
anyway.
brains, aren't they? The men, the female, and the men go out and.
But if they're all transgendered, I guess they're men anyway.
Yeah, they're yes.
Or hybrids or whatever. That's for another story.
Yes.
That's for another story. So basically, the CIA and MI5 were trained at the Tavistock Institute. And they were trained in, you might have to help me with some of these words, because it's words I can't say. And then Rebecca's going to go. So metaphysics.
Yes.
Mind control.
Yes.
Behaviour modification strategy.
Yeah.
Hypnotism.
Yeah. Esoteric knowledge.
Satanism. Manichean, that is. I don't know what Manichean is.
Yeah, I don't know.
Theology. So, there we are. I wrote it down. So it's the duality of good and evil.
Okay.
So Manichean theology. So they were what the MI5. Did I say MI5 or MI6? Get it right? It was MI5 I've written down, and the CIA. So that's what they were trained in. And then apparently this John Coleman has discovered that one major secret that they had was a 3-system response related to the reaction of stress. So the first response of a crisis is superficiality. So basically, it was a group of people who were reacting to like shallow advertising and slogans passed off as ideals, and that caused confusion within society. And then the second phase was fragmentation. So that's when panic strikes. You get social cohesion falls apart basically because everyone's a bit like what it's like now.
Yeah,
Same as what it's like now. You've got two completely.
A couple of years ago.
Yeah, and it's basically breaking humanity into smaller groups, and it causes civil unrest. So it's very similar to what's happened now, isn't it? People are,
divided everybody.
Yeah, and two different.
And also the confusion, because if you kind of, sorry, they're really getting fruity over there. If the social cohesion and panic and all of that creates confusion, it's much easier to control people when they're confused.
Yeah, of course it is. And then the last phase was the fantasy trip, if you like. So disassociation from the traumatization of a false flag event. And then basically it would make people go low, and then they'd lose sort of all hope in humanity, basically, because they've got to that point. And apparently that was the 3-system strategy that they used with their false flags and their psychological operations within the Tavistock Institute. So very simple. Nothing too complicated, really.
No.
Not really. So the Beatles. So John Coleman and others believe that the Tavistock Institution created the birth of rock and roll in general. So they manufactured the Beatles and the Stones and the Grateful Dead, among others. That's just the 3 I just picked out. Not that I know much about the Grateful Dead.
I don't know much about the Grateful Dead, no. So
the Beatles and the Stones were basically 2 sides of the same coin that they minted, that the Tavistock, that they created, basically. So they had one was sort of good boys, wasn't it, and one was slightly bad boys, if you like.
And you apparently either you were into the Beatles or you were into the Stones.
Yeah, you couldn't like both, could you?
A bit like the Blur Oasis thing in the 90s.
Yeah, it's very similar, isn't it? So basically, they introduced a new generation and a cultural sort of upbringing around alleged freedoms to think for yourself and liberties to take drugs, and make all of this whole thing seem like it was a choice, and it was like the New Age thing. Very similar to that, I'd imagine. And
the whole 60s kind of counterculture was completely about that.
And it was all manufactured basically by the CIA, and they turned out millions and millions of LSD tabs from their labs to help.
Well, we know that the LSD was leaked in America via the military, don't we?
Yeah.
So I've always felt like that was a...
Yeah, it was all part of it.
Yeah,
all part of the... Yeah, so the Rolling Stones were mastered by... an Order of Malta member called Prince Rupert Luthwainstein. And he sponsored the Sympathy for the Devil song in 1968. He was also a member of the very powerful sacred military Constantination Order of St. George, which is higher than the Order of Malta. So they are really high up people. That is way up in the...
echelons of...
way up there. Stuff that we've not really ever heard of. Well, we've heard of the Malta thing. Because they say Tom Cruise is connected to that one, don't they?
Yeah.
So you have heard of that. So that's sort of like, and he was basically, he sort of created them, if you like, this guy, this Rupert, Prince Rupert, of course, Prince Rupert. And then Prince Rupert. And then a man named Alan Trist, who was the social engineer of the institution. He became the shadow manager of the Grateful Dead band.
Right.
And his father was Eric Trist, and he was a founding member of the Tavistock Institute. So basically these managers, they were kind of like shadow managers. So they were in behind the people that they put up front, but they were the ones sort of...
But you can't deny that connection is
It's definitely in there.
It's there.
Yeah. So the introduction of the Beatles was a well-executed agenda to steer the youth of the 70s to a counterculture. They could identify with giving teenagers false choice and influencing their culture through the music. They didn't write any of their music at all.
You're joking.
No, it was in fact written by a guy called Theodore Adorno. So he left Germany in the spring of 1934 and he returned in 1949, and he quickly established himself as an intellectual and a central figure in the Institute of Social Research, and he was the key player in restructuring all of their universities in Germany, this guy. So he was highly intelligent and highly influential, and he started off by explaining that you can write simple, tacky music to prove his concept of how easy it is for people to be influenced with limited and repeated messages in music.
Wow.
So a lot of the Beatles music is quite simple.
Very simple. I mean, when I started playing guitar, I learnt a lot of Beatles songs because they're like 3 or 4 chords.
Yeah, it's easy, very simple. So, but he had amazing skills in teaching and understanding classical music. So, and he wrote hundreds of songs that were distributed to various bands between 1969 and 1975.
Wow.
So then words and phrases like rock and roll, cool, teenager, were created by the Tavistock Institute. And they were sort of like considered a code. They were code words with the acceptance of drugs and sort of being hip and cool. And they arrived wherever the Beatles went. These words went along with them, basically. Teenager was never used until just before the Beatles arrived. So they put those words in as another form of like mind control to then associate it with the Beatles and then associate it.
Sort of as a precursor.
Yeah.
To them arriving on the scene.
It's quite interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
Very interesting. So that's all I could find on the connection between the Tavistock Institute and the Beatles. So not as much as I found before, but I should imagine they're closing a lot of that stuff down. So I don't know if anyone else ever heard the theory that Paul McCartney actually died. And basically,
it's a kind of well-known conspiracy theory, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It's one of those that's been rumbling around for years.
For quite a long time. So he apparently died.
That?
Yeah, well, I found a lot more before and I couldn't find as much this time. So some of this is from my brain. But apparently he died in a car accident on the 9th of November in 1966. And he was replaced with kind of a lookalike, or actually somebody who actually doesn't just look like them but can perform like them as well, what they're called. So they'd go off and do bands.
Like a tribute band.
Yeah, so somebody who's replaced somebody like that. So this person not only looked like him a little bit, but could
sounded
sing.
like him could sing and play the guitar.
So there's a few different names. So there's going around. So there's Billy Shepherd and Billy Shears, but they think that the Shears and the Shepherd, that's just a play on the words because it's like that. And then the other one is William Campbell. So I'm not sure. But apparently, what I found out about William Campbell is he did the lookalike competition that was held, but they never announced a winner. He was definitely known to enter, and there's no record of him since that date. So this guy just completely disappeared.
So he disappeared. So
completely
is it
disappeared.
Likely him then.
So it's likely him. I've got some pictures of him, which I'll have a look for in a minute. And then they did put out in mainstream media in 1965, they said that Paul McCartney did crash a moped and chip his tooth. And they also said in 1967, someone drove Paul's car and it crashed on the M1. So that's 2 interesting stories that did go out about him. And the crash that Paul was meant to have had was on the M1 as well. He was meant to have crashed on the M1. So rumour has it that Paul stormed off after an argument, picked up a hitchhiker, jumped a red light, crashed, which means he wouldn't have been on the M1 because there wouldn't have been a red light.
No.
So there we go. Jumped a red light, crashed, and he was apparently decapitated. So then people say, so the lyrics in the song, he blew his mind out in a car. He hadn't noticed that the lights had changed. And though the news was rather sad, we just had to laugh. Having read the news, I can't think what the rest of the lyrics are, but there's something about news today, oh boy. Yeah, so basically.
And actually, that's quite a sad song.
So he blew his mind out in a car. He hadn't noticed that the lights had changed. And though the news was rather sad, we just had to laugh. And I think there's something about, I don't know, I didn't write them all down. But yeah, that's interesting. So that was the story. that they said. And then a documentary was made. I'm not sure when it was made because I couldn't find it out. And it was called Paul Really Is Dead. And the director was a guy called Joel Gilbert. And he claimed in the summer of 2005, so this film's quite recent, a package arrived at the Hollywood offices with 2 mini recordings of the last testament of George Harrison. He claimed MI5 had forced them to cover it up to prevent mass hysteria from the public dying, which is why they put in... What are you up to, Rora?
It's all right. She's
Yes, so that's apparently what was said.
So then on George Harrison's deathbed, he kind of...
That's what they say. But then they kind of made a slight mockery of this documentary. And it said that there are some truths in it.
My chair's falling over.
Yeah, that there are some truths in it, but to kind of make it look far-fetched, they changed it. So they said that Rita was a lady who happened to witness this crash. And apparently Rita changed her name to Heather Mills. And then she came back, this is why it's so far-fetched, she came back later in life, bribed that Paul to marry her.
Yeah.
And then apparently she was trying to be silenced by police, and that's how she had a car crash and lost her leg. So I read that they put that sort of thing in there just to try and make the whole story
thing look too outrageous.
Yeah, so it's kind of made it all...
the rest of it can't be true. Yeah, they do that quite a lot, don't they?
Kind of also, and also I suppose to say we told you it happened, but also to sort of discredit it at the same time. So let me get up some things on here. So apparently John Lennon wanted to talk out, and they did start leaving some clues on some of their album covers. So if I put that one up there, so that's is that Abbey Road?
Yes.
So you've got Abbey Road there. So just take a little look. I'll put it back up again in a minute. But basically, so clues in the album Abbey Road. So Lennon is dressed in white, and he's perhaps meant to represent a priest or some sort of godly figure. And then you had Star in black, who represented an undertaker. Harrison in denim at the back was the gravedigger. And if you look at McCartney, he's out of step. He's got the opposite of things. He's got no shoes on.
Yeah.
And his eyes are closed.
Wow.
So and he's obviously in like a morning suit that you'd wear when you were. So if I just, you can see his eyes are closed. He's got no shoes on. And their other foot is forward while his one...
he's out of sync,
Totally out of sync.
And he's having a fag.
And I thought, then I looked for some more pictures. She'd been in pain, didn't she? And this is a picture of them before they filmed it. And he's got flip-flops on there. So it was an intentional thing.
Okay.
So if I show you that one, that's a photo I found online of them doing, getting prepared to do it. And you can see Paul McCartney's got flip-flops on there.
He's got his pool
So
slags
it was
on.
obviously
Oh, yeah, it's like you're going to have bare feet.
Yeah, it's obviously... She really wants Henry to play, doesn't she? Yeah, it's obviously intentional in that respect. So I thought that was quite interesting. And also the registration plate there's a little beetle in there, and that registration plate was 28, then IF. So they were saying, if McCartney was alive, he would have been 28 at that point. So they're saying, could that have been another sort of thing? And then there's Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Oh, yeah, the cover for that is full of...
That one.
Yeah, it's full of symbolisms and stuff, isn't it?
So on that one, what did they come up with? So there's a... You can see there's a man with his hand up right behind Paul's head. And I don't know how it's significant, but people seem to think that's significant. And this would have been the time when they introduced the alter ego of Billy Shepherd or Billy Shears. It would have been this time. So it would have been this album. And there were yellow hyacinths. I'll show you, Rebecca, so other people can look if they want to or pause it. Yellow hyacinths that's Paul's left-handed instrument that he played. It was his bass guitar.
He was a bass player, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and that was a left-handed guitar, and obviously the hyacinths suggest death, don't they?
They symbolise death,
so they're kind of saying, was that something else? And then, of course, they're... what are these people here, look? I noticed them.
Well, they're like
mourners. Younger versions of them?
Well, they're like fake thems.
Yeah, so if you look next to them, there's like 4 of them.
Because that looks
in black.
Yeah, looks like them in their suits when they first started out.
But they just look strange. So I mean, there's tons
they
of stuff on there.
They look like zombified version.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Just a bit strange, isn't it?
Very odd.
And if that's meant to be Paul McCartney, he's very short there. He's got a lot taller, and that's what everybody said. Apparently, one of the main reasons they knew that he'd changed was the height.
Yeah.
This Billy Shepherd guy was much taller.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite interesting. Was there anything else on there? The size sense. Oh, and they were all holding instruments, and they've all got gold ones, and Paul McCartney's got a black oboe, and they've all got gold.
And he didn't play the oboe.
No,
did
he didn't.
he?
Is it an oboe? Looks like an oboe. And they've all got brass instruments.
Oh yeah.
So that was another thing that sort of people picked up on it. And then apparently, when you played Strawberry Fields Forever backwards, there was a message that said, "I buried Paul." And I'm so tired. Is that the song called I'm So Tired? Yeah. If you play that one backwards, it says, "Paul is dead. Miss him, miss him, miss him." And it's interesting. There's 3 miss hims, and it's the 3 of them. So, yeah, that was the sort of like...
So do you think they were trying to sort of tell people?
So there is that, and then there's, of course, the theory that that's why John Lennon was killed. He was killed by the CIA because he was trying to... Yeah, he was wanting to expose.
I
They'd
have
had
a
enough.
lot of questions about John Lennon, you know, and Yoko Ono, and was she his handler? And
She was definitely male, wasn't she?
I never liked her. I always got a very dark vibe off her. Not that I ever met her, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, she's...
and I just felt, I think a lot of people felt he was controlled. She was very unpopular, wasn't she?
Yeah, very unpopular. So this is going to come up the opposite way, so I'm going to get confused. So that's the real one, and that's who they think replaced him. So when they look at that on the screen, that would be on the...
The eye shape's
I'll
quite
just say
different.
the one with the moustache.
Yeah, the one with the moustache.
So the one with the moustache is considered the real Paul McCartney, and the other one is the Billy Shepherd, or the one that came in. And like Rebecca said, the eyes are quite different. The lips are wider, aren't they? The moustache sort of hides it a bit.
The nose is very similar, but you can have a nose job very easily.
Or not even a nose job, you could have just a sticky nose on. It'd only be for pictures, wouldn't it?
False nose.
You think about what they do, and then the same on that one.
So that's the real one.
No,
that's the real one.
Yeah. So he's got a lot more lippy.
He's got a bigger Cupid's bow.
Yeah, and there's the 2 there. So there's no doubt that they're very, very similar. But
are they the same person? That's the question.
Are they the same person? So yeah, that is pretty much what I found out.
Well, it's very, very interesting.
So yeah.
I mean, these psyops, as we've realised, are huge.
Yeah.
And so well executed and so well planned. And when I was at uni, I did a sort of mini dissertation on the counterculture of the 1960s. Weirdly enough, because you could choose what you wanted to do.
And you chose that.
And I chose that, and I did a whole thing on the counterculture of the 60s. I thought, it's going to be great because it's going to be all about the music and da-da-da-da. But actually, when I went into it and did my research and my study, a lot of what happened in the 60s was rooted in the 40s.
Yes.
At the end of the war, and the war itself, and how that changed the social structure, you know,
the perception, isn't it?
Well, and all sorts. I mean, those wars put together people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
A lot of social separations were broken down actually through the war, and then they had to kind of
engineer it again
to control. And the 60s, it was the first time that, you know, that young people didn't dress like their parents. They had their own. It's like this counterculture was designed.
That's only what we remember, because we obviously...
I wasn't there.
It's all false as well, isn't it? History's false, so who knows what people really wore 100, 200 years ago. It's just crazy.
But all of that research I did, you know, was obviously, now I realise I was just researching a very, very well executed...
Well scripted,
psyop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But... So it was really kind of an interesting era to look at,
and they're probably no different to the manufactured bands of, like, I don't know, the Spice Girls and all that. Yeah. It's the same thing. These that they are. I mean, the Beatles probably were chosen and trained. They probably came from families of whatever, I would say. And you know, I think with these families as well, even though but they're from Liverpool, they've got a Liverpool accent. That doesn't mean that they've come from somewhere. It's very easy. These children aren't normal children, so when they're younger, they could be shipped out to anybody, and live a life, but they could come from something very different and a very different bloodline. Yeah.
And we know now, don't we, that the entertainment industry is just a complete CIA operation.
It is, yeah. That's what it's there for.
You know, I can't even listen to the radio now. I just can't listen to normal music, knowing that it's all part of a huge psyop.
Yeah, it is.
And when you think how instrumental the Beatles were and the Stones and all of that
Well, look at the hysteria it caused. It's a bit like the hysteria of COVID. I know it's the opposite end, but it's that same...
But it's still...
mind control.
And learning how to whip everybody up into a frenzy.
And the control that these 4... Was it 4 of them? 5
yeah, 4.
That these 4 ugly I'm sorry, they're not a good-looking bunch of men. Why anyone fancied them?
I think George was all right.
Oh, no.
No?
No, they're all quite short and...
Oh, is he short?
I think they all are. I just think they're all
I don't do short.
they're just, but do you know what I mean? They're not exceptionally beautiful.
Gorgeous. They're not
Handsome
gorgeous.
there.
I
They were
think,
just
I think
like-
the Rolling Stones are worse. I mean, God,
Oh!
Mick Jagger can't even dance. He dances like he's having a weird
And
sort of seizure.
he's still got his boobs. They didn't take all his boobs out, did they? You can see he's still got breast
he's
tissue.
got boobs.
He's got breast tissue under there, which is pretty disgusting.
And
isn't it?
they're pretty satanic, I think.
But they all are.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be there if they weren't, would they? That's
No,
the thing.
that's the thing.
None
yeah.
of it would be there, and that goes for all newer bands as well. You know, I think people forget it's everything. Anyone who is in that world is there for a reason. They didn't all get famous, or they weren't talented. And also, these people who were brainwashed and stuff like that, you know, oh, but how could they all sing? They probably have the best training in the world.
Well,
to
they
do
used
all this.
auto-tune anyway. I used to do engineering and stuff in the 90s, and you know, I can hear auto-tuning songs all the time.
But they were live. I saw them at the Cavern.
Well, they can use auto-tune
That's what
live.
they'll say, though, won't they?
It's just,
But they're live. I saw them at the Cavern, and I went to school with his mum's friend's brother.
Yeah.
And it must be, you know, no, they were poor. They came from here. They came from that. It's like, how do you know?
But everyone gets wrapped up in the romantic story of the Cavern and how they got together and everything.
But how could you know that? I mean, even all the stories today, you know, of all these people, let's use Rihanna as a thing, you know, when they get there's pictures of her in a supermarket, that's all been manufactured. Who knows where she lives, what they do in their real life or anything. They probably ugly, disgusting, whatever they are. I don't even know what they are, but do you know what I mean? They don't live these lives that they put in the magazines or that they let us see. None of them do. The Beatles wouldn't have done. It's all scripted. Even if they've been caught in the supermarket or they've been playing football on a Sunday, it's not real. Is it? It's all choreographed.
All part of the story.
Yeah, it's all choreographed, and who knows? They might have lived in institutes. They could have. Who knows where all these people
originated from?
Lived, you know, on a day-to-day basis. Their day-to-day life wasn't the life that was portrayed. That was all part of it, wasn't it? It's
all
just
manufactured.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, it is crazy, but yeah, and it is interesting how people will feel that they've been cheated by it. I think. More than, you know, because
manipulated.
Yeah,
we've been manipulated, haven't we?
We have.
Massively,
and we still are being manipulated.
Well, I'm not anymore.
No, but I mean,
no,
the general population is.
I mean, I'm kind of listening to things like SoundCloud and Mixcloud, which is people's
I love all
creations.
that, yeah.
And you know, I just think, that's the music I'm going to listen to
I only
now.
listen to music by people who aren't famous.
Yeah. Exactly, because we know it's clean and it's real music, and
it's come from them, isn't it? It hasn't come from manufactured stuff. What's the matter with you? You've been a little bit annoying, aren't you?
She just tongued you.
Oh, that was a. Oh.
Did you tongue Tash?
Did I get a tongue? Tonguey mummy. Mummy tonguey.
Oh,
that went up my nose.
That sort of whole Beatles thing, that will really upset my mum. I'll have to make sure my mum doesn't watch this, because it was so much part of her teenage and her youth and her upbringing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like,
but it's not as bad as all the other things that everyone's found out over the last few years. In many ways, it's
not as bad as.
And you know, you've got to be out of the matrix and understand what's going on. You've got to realise that everything that's happened, your education, it's all false. It's all just, you're just being, you know, education's another terrible one. You're just being told a pack of lies, and then you're intelligent if you can spill out those pack of lies. And that's not intelligence, you know, that really isn't. It's everything. It's you know, all the nurses, the doctors, all of this, everything is just been created.
It's all by design.
Yeah, all been created to create society as it is now.
And that's kind of the simulation, isn't it, in a way, because it's all bollocks.
It's all bullshit. Intelligence really is emotional intelligence. People who have emotional and intuition and stuff, that is real intelligence.
But that's why the Tavistock Institute look at esoteric knowledge.
Yeah.
That is your spiritual knowledge, because this is all...
Because they know.
This is energy harvesting as well.
Yeah.
When you get 3,000 screaming girls at a concert, just imagine all of that emotion and that energy.
Yeah.
And it's all focusing into these four guys on the stage rather
who
than
are nothing
into themselves.
Yeah, and
that's
they're
what
not
energy
real
harvesting
people. They're
is
not
about.
real. And you know, but there was that album cover they had where they had all the babies.
Oh, that was...
So, yeah, I
Yeah,
can't remember, it was all baby, like it was toy babies, but they're all ripped up and bleeding and their heads and
It's
stuff,
very
you know, and
satanic.
there's lots of stuff with them with that upside down crosses.
Yeah.
So yes, all of these concerts would have been massive
energy harvesting.
Yeah,
And
because
still
they
are
were
today, and football matches,
They are
sports
satanic.
things.
They
it's
are,
all
yeah.
energy harvesting.
Yeah.
Don't give your energy away.
No. Unless it's somebody nice down the road who's playing the guitar in the pub.
Exactly, that's a
then
different
go
thing.
and listen to it.
Yeah,
then that's lovely.
Yeah.
And that's genuine and that's from the heart.
Yeah.
That's coming from... Yeah, and I think it is that thing, isn't it? It takes a lot for people to realise that it's not just what you want to believe is false. It is all false.
Yeah.
And it's not until you can get your head around that you can kind of move forward with it, really. If you're still stuck in that, you know, even sport, everything, you know, sport at high levels, all of it is just all...
Energy harvesting.
And just fake. It's just not real.
And distraction.
Yeah,
and
distraction.
Keep you
Stopping
all
us from doing what we should be
so
doing.
that you haven't, you know, you're not then thinking about what's going on.
What's really going on. And don't get me wrong, it's good for us to do sport and stuff like that, but the level that it's got to, and the money it generates, and the fame it generates, sport should not be generating fame. It should be part of your mental health and part of your daily stuff that you do to keep
fit
your body and your
mind healthy.
Yeah. You know, so yeah, I think it's all very interesting.
It is very interesting. Anyway, guys, sorry to burst your Beatles bubble, but
burst your bubble. But if anyone finds out any more information, do try and put something. I need some links.
Because obviously they've obviously taken some of it down, which shows that people have been digging. And I always think if information disappears, there's a good reason.
There's a good reason for it.
And
and it was there in the first place. You know, all stories come from some form of truth, don't they? Or warped truth, or whatever. Everything comes from something, from a memory or a feeling or whatever. You know, so obviously the information came from somewhere. That crash. Why was it even mentioned? You know? Yeah. So you got to sort of think,
there's no smoke without fire.
That's the one.
Yeah.
You want to go out for a wee?
Anyway, well, Aurora needs a wee, so we're going to go and wish you all a really good week.
And we'll talk about maybe the Privy Council next week. Then.
Yeah, I think we're going to do Privy Council and Bohemian Grove Club 300, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then we do, also people want the chemtrails one, so we'll do that. You know,
you'll probably know more about that than me.
Yeah, I'll do that one the week after, shall I?
Yeah, I don't know much about chemtrails.
No, I'll do that. I'll do a bit of research. Get up off my arse and actually do some research.
You're good at it.
I like researching, to be fair. You're just bloody good at it.
Oh.
And you've got a photographic memory, haven't you, Tasha?
I have sometimes. Not at the moment, because I keep getting migraines, but yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. You've still not been well this week.
I've had more migraines. And then I spoke to the doctor, and she just wants to put me on, from taking no drugs a day to 9 drugs in 24 hours. 9 tablets in 24 hours. I'm like,
whack you on those pharmaceuticals, Tash.
And then all the ones I bloody got off.
But you're not going to, are you?
No, she said, I'll put you back on propranolol, I'll put you back on. I was like, I don't want to be on those drugs. You put me on those for
and it was a
different
lot.
reason.
It was like, bloody hell, you're not on anything. Suddenly she gave you all these prescriptions.
I don't mind having the anti-sickness and I don't mind having the...
She's got to get you back in the system, Tash.
Yeah. I said to her, I've come off all that. I said, just don't try and give me bloody codeines, because I was on them for like 30 years. And I was like, I don't want to go back on these strong drugs.
But also, Tash, you know, we have both had a really bad virus. You were ill a lot more than me for longer.
I think it's because I had migraines, though.
But it could be the tail end of it still. You know, it's some people...
And I have had migraines in the past. It might just be a phase. It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Just got but they are very debilitating.
Oh, horrible, aren't they?
Horrible things, yeah.
Anyway. I'm glad you made it today. We're glad Tash made it today.
I made it, and I did my research somehow. Did it last night.
Oh, well done. No, you're very good.
Oh!
Another tonguing. Anyway, we'll leave you now so that Tash can get tongued by her dog. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.